rural land acquisition, in terms of transfer, in terms of redistribution, in terms of consolidation of land size, and in terms of depriving of the landing, the holding right, and administration. Land in Ethiopia, since 1974, is under the control of the state with full 100% control, all rural land and urban land. And the new thing in the current regime is it is becoming constitutional. So you cannot really play around with land very easily. It is constitutional. And there is also a federal proclamation which was issued in 2005, and that gave the overall framework for land and legal background. But the administration of rural land is entirely up to the regional states. That is the law of the land. I see the implication of this legal framework on sustainable growth, or if you like, rural transformation or better livelihood, in terms of, as I said, the acquisition of rural land, transfer of rural land, holding and use rights, redistribution and consolidation, and the condition for deprivation. The existing land tenure regime influences progression to a greater extent in terms of non-farm activities in rural areas and in terms of non-agricultural activities, as well as people's ability to migrate spatially and to migrate across occupation. If we see the time limit on use rights, the use right of land reform of households has no time limitation. So every farm household who has a use right has a right to use it, to transfer it to his own children. So there is no time limit. And this has created a problem, in terms of using that use right as a collateral, because the bank cannot assess, the value of the land against time. So the farm householders cannot use their land as a collateral. So they couldn't get access to additional money for non-farm activities or even to invest in their own farm. But what is surprising is, as an urban resident or whomever you are, if you go to rural area and get land through lease from farm householders, because they are allowed to lease their land to a third person, and there is a time limit for that, very short period. So if you get that land from farm householders through lease, then you can use that use right for that specific period of time as a collateral to get credit from bank. So while the land policy provides right to mortgage for the leasing, it denies the same right to the lessor. So this is the problem we have. And residence requirement, transfer of the land use right in the form of inheritance and donation is allowed only to the right holders' family members who are residing in the rural qabali, in the same rural qabali, and are engaged or wish to engage in agriculture. So residents outside that qabali and residents who do not want to engage in agriculture do not have the right to inherit. So this is the other limitation on the transfer of land. And plot size restrictions, farmers can rent or lease only part of their land holding for limited period of time. So they cannot lease all the land they have, because they have to stay in that rural qabali. So this is also another restriction on the mobility of farm householders in looking for other occupations or in looking for non-farm and off-farm non-farm activities. Land fragmentation. in the current regime for the last 18, 19 years, there is no land redistribution at all. There was no land redistribution at all, and there is a promise that there will be no land redistribution, but there is a regular in-house redistribution. Each farm household redistribute their own land for their kids, when they have their own family. And that is an ongoing activity every year and led to land fragmentation. So peasants in Ethiopia, on average, they have less than 1 hectare, and this is fragmented into more than 3 different plots. Deprivation of land use rights, farm households lose their use right if they are engaged in non-farm activity or off-farm activity, and this will be assessed, the income they generate from non-farm activity will be assessed by a committee, and if this is at least equal to the minimum wage that the government providing, then they will automatically lose their land use right. So people are not interested to diversify their livelihood. And this is a policy in some regions, and in some regions this is relaxed because regional states have their own land policy. Now with this is a kind of system we have, and now there is a new development, acquisition of large-scale land in Ethiopia, and the old system, cannot cope up with this new developments, and there is, if you like, a kind of land reform going on in Ethiopia to accommodate these new developments. The administration, as I said, the administration of rural land is up to the regional status, but because of these new developments, now the federal government retake this power and re-centralize the administration of rural lands. But this is a constitutional issue, so what they did is regional states delegate the federal government to administer their own rural land. So this is what is happening currently. And the federal government has also set up a new office which has never been in the history of Ethiopia, which is responsible for land bank. Now, these are the context in which we are in. So more than 70% of the population depends directly on land for their livelihood and food security. And Ethiopian farming is characterized by rain-fed agriculture, where yield can only increase through the increase of land size. That is what is happening currently, because the intensification is limited, and food security by smallholder farmers is the main objective of the current government. And given this, the question is, does this current acquisition of large-scale land promote food security for Ethiopian smallholder farmers? So we need to see the impacts of this new development on smallholder farmers. And the methodology, this is really a very tentative and crude. We have a literature review and analysis of land tenure regime in the country in the context of how it promotes a smallholder in terms of diversifying their livelihood, in terms of sustainable growth, and analysis of legal framework of land deals in the country, and analysis of regulations and privileges for foreign direct investment in agriculture, especially acquisition of large-scale lands. And we'll have a kind of semi-structured interview with key informants on the content and negotiation of land deals, insights on the drivers underpinning large-scale land acquisitions of agricultural investment, and on how local land rights issues are usually approached, and relation with displaced and continuing small farmers. This is the final slide I have, and the limitation to this kind of study is acquisition of large fields of land in Ethiopia is highly sensitive in terms of both political and ethnic factor. And because of this, there might be lack of cooperation from government authorities and limited access to investor state contractors due to confidentiality concerns. And we might have also difficulties in accessing key people for interview because this is a politically sensitive issue. And data may not be correctly stored and available for research. Thank you.